since Isha is always 7:45, we'll 8:10 basically to 9:10 will be easier. I need Zaid. This is like I can't read from this one. Right? Get regular So we'll continue tonight, inshallah, with the tafsir of Surat Al-Mudathir, and we had stopped at the end of the second paragraph in it, and I have it divided into paragraphs. Or we stopped kind of in the middle of the second paragraph. I have to explain the story to you. So after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the commands, the 7 commands, and we spent, I think, 2 sessions talking about what they meant. So the Mudathir is talking to us how we carry ourselves as Muslims publicly in the world, and what do we live by. After he gave us those commands, the surah is going to explain to us, give us examples of what can ruin these things for us and what will allow us to succeed. So what can ruin it for you is the example of Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. He's the example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses to show us how all of these things can be ruined. قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. What can ruin all of this for you is one trait. If you have this trait, then all of this will be ruined. None of this will add up to anything that's meaningful. And this is a very powerful message that you find in the verses, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins, ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا. So when you tell the story of this gentleman, leave me with the one whom I created alone. وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا وَمَهَّدتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. And I provided for him money that is mamduda, meaning it's spread in front of him. He sees it as far as he looks. He just sees money. He sees wealth. He's very wealthy. وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا. And he has that social support. He has children to carry his name, so he is supported. He has status within his people. وَمَهَّدتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. Tamheed is to ease things. It's to pave the way. Right? Tamheed is when you pave something out, or when you even it out. So you straighten the path, so that whoever comes after you doesn't have to trip over things or find it difficult. وَمَهَدتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. I mean, I eased his path. I made sure his life was full of ease. There was no difficult for him. No difficulty for him. ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدُ. And then he has the greed to ask for more. He just wants more and more. Like there's no matter how much I give him, he just continues to have the greed. So the first problem is the greed. The answer is kalla. Well, why is it that he won't get more? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Shaykh was explaining to us, gives and he gives he's the Wahhab. إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِآيَاتِنَا عَنِيدًا. Indeed, when it came to our signs, when it came to the evidence that was presented to him, he was stubborn. He was anid. He refused to listen. And he refused to accept that which made sense to him. And it's that stubbornness when you see the truth and you're stubborn, you don't follow it, meaning you stick to whatever opinion you had at the beginning, is what will ruin everything that Surat Al-Mudathir talked about. This is a trait that is the most poisonous of all traits, the stubbornness of the human being, al-'ind. And it translates to the Quran in takzeeb. In takzeeb, I've explained a number of times, and opposed to kufr. Kufr is just disbelief or misbelief. Takzeeb is when you see the truth, but you decide not to follow it. You go the other direction. Meaning, the person, the truth was presented to them, and it made sense, or it was the more likely thing to follow. Meaning, it had the better evidence, but they decided to go against it for personal reasons, because they were just stubbornness. And this is the trait of Al-Walid ibn Mughira that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will talk about. This man, as the verses explained, was very wealthy. He was the top chieftain of Quraysh by far, easily. He was unparalleled during his life. And I gave you some examples last time. And he was the godfather in many ways, politically and intellectually, for the people who were living in Mecca. So the leaders of Mecca, after the Prophet ﷺ presented the Quran, they found themselves in a predicament, because what he's saying ﷺ is very sensible, and it's also very beautiful to listen to. And it comes with a package that is hard to argue against. And it's authentic in its nature, and it's original. And it's also from the land. And he is known to be who he is ﷺ in terms of his lineage and his ethics. So he presented a very difficult nut to crack, It wasn't easy for the people who were in Mecca to dismiss him, right? Especially when he started, when people start to accept Islam, because for them, if you're just doing this, if you walk downtown, you'll find crazy people standing there with on the corners of streets with yelling things. No one's listening to them. Whatever. They just ignore them. They're good for entertainment purposes. They keep things fun. They say crazy stuff. But alayhi salatu was not doing that. Alayhi salatu was working, and people were listening, and people of status, intelligence, and were following him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And the people in Mecca were asking, what is it? What is this? How do we deal with this? What is he saying? What is he, alayhi salatu wasalam? Like, the followers don't want to actually go and put any effort into learning anything. They just want someone to tell them how to view it. And this has always been the case of humanity. It's not new. We're like that today. We just want someone else to tell us how to interpret what's going on or what's actually happening. So they're going to go to their leaders. Dar al-Nadwa, they're going to go to Abu Jahl and Safwan and Abu al-Bukhtari and Abu Sufyan and Al-As ibn Wa'il and Utbah and all these people who have have the status within their tribes. People trust them. So they go to them, and they were struggling with having an answer. They struggled they didn't know what to say. They were contradicting each other with their answers, and their answers were not adding up, and they were losing. Like the person was asking them, so what is he? A poet. A poet? He's never said poetry in his life. He's been around for 40 years. We've never heard him say poetry. What is this poet? It's not even poetry. We know what poetry is. This is not poetry. The Quran isn't poetry. Like if you know Arabic poetry, this is not poetry. It doesn't. Poetry has a very Arabi, Shi'r al-Arabi al-Amudi that was used during those days. But the only type of poetry has a very strict rhythm to it. The tune is very specific. You cannot make any variations to it. Once you start, you have to go on, and at the end has to be the same letter, same tashkil. There's a lot of rules to it. It's not easy. And anyone listening to the Quran knows it's not poetry. Like it's never. So you're saying he's a poet. Well, first of all, we know he's not a poet. Second of all, this is not poetry. So they're like stuck there. Okay, well then he's a wizard. Wizard. When did Muhammad ever learn wizardry? Like never. He was not known to be like. So they were getting confused. So they went back to the big man. And back to the boss. Like, what do we say? So he first said, I have to listen to it. Like, I don't know. I haven't. He's living in his ivory castle. He doesn't care. So I have to listen. So he goes and he listens to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And he listens and he listens. He comes back to them. And he says, ألا إنه لمثمر أعلاه مغدق أسفله وإنه لا يعلو ولا يعلى عليه. That indeed, what he says is like a tree. The fruit is beautiful at the top, and the roots are deep into the ground. And indeed, it is superior to all other form of speech, and nothing will ever be better than it. That's what he said. So they're sitting around him like, this is not why we came to you. What are you saying? So what do we do? Asabat and asbat? Would we all follow him? قالوا ما قال لا, no. Then, but this is his opinion. This is what was narrated to us by the people who were there listening to it. فقالوا إذا نقول هو شاعر فقال لا إني سمعت الشعر شعر الإنس وشعر الجن وما هذا بشعر. He said, no, I know poetry. I've heard the poetry of mankind and the poetry of the jinn, and this is not poetry. قال فنقول عنه كاهن فقال إني أعلم وأعرف تعويذات الكهان وهذا ليس من كلامهم. I know the wizards and the wizardry and what they say and the words that they use and the way that he's not like that. فقالوا نقول ساحر. We say he's a magician. فقال فإني أعلم طلاسمهم وليس بساحر. I know the nonsense that they use to fool people and the trickery that they have, and he's not that. So this is فما نقول. What do we say then? We're asking you for help. You're telling us this is the best thing you've ever listened to. It's literally what he said. فقال دعوني. Leave me to think. I need to think. I need some time. Go away. So they leave him. And he's thinking, okay, what do I do? He's making a decision. I know he's like, this is correct. This is not human. What he is presenting is not a hoax. It's not trickery. It's correct. It's the truth. I have the ability to either move everyone towards following him and following him myself, and I lose my status and I lose my position. Or I have everyone turn against him. I come up with a different narrative. I suppress his work and I stay where I am. Yeah. To you listening to this, you may say this is a very simple dilemma. I am telling you right now, it is absolutely not. It is not a simple dilemma. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Which is why in your life you have to train yourself to accept the truth wherever it falls. Whoever is speaking it, on whatever side it is, no matter what you were saying beforehand, you have to train yourself that you follow the haqq unconditionally. Unconditionally, you follow the truth. You accept when you are wrong. You accept when the truth is clear to you. Because if you don't do that, even on small things, which is what Iblis likes, he likes you to start just not doing that on something simple, like a simple opinion that you had, and you don't step down even though you know you're wrong. Because Iblis knows if you do this long enough, you'll build that capacity so that when you're stuck in a position where you have control over how people are going to view the truth, you'll make the wrong choice. And that's what happened to Al-Walid al-Mughira. He was given the power. He had it in his hand. He could choose. He could come back and say, no, هذا كلام الله. This is the word of Allah. Follow Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And all of Seerah would be different. And all the stories that I tell you would not exist by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't have all these stories to tell you. I don't even know what the seerah of Muhammad alayhi salam would look like if this man decided to tell his people, I listened to it, he is honest and he is truthful and this is correct and you have to all change your ways. And it would give up his status and give up his leadership and give up the fact that he is the godfather of the group. Because he knows what's going to happen. If he declares that this is Rasulullah, he is no longer that person anymore. He has to step down. And he may step down a number of steps. It may not be one or two steps. It may be quite a bit. He may become like Ammat al-Sha'b, like the general public. He may not even have that. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what Muhammad alayhi salam is going to do to him later on. He doesn't want to ask. He doesn't want to go and beg. He doesn't want to have to ask for his position. He is too proud to do any of these things. So for him, there's a million problems in his mind of why he doesn't want to support this. But there's one reason to support it, which is it's truthful. And that should be enough. But it wasn't. This trait will ruin you. This trait will ruin you. If there's anything in your heart or your life that is more valuable or that weighs heavier in your scales than the haqq, than doing the right thing, than accepting the truth, then it's just a matter of time. It's a ticking bomb. Your life will bring you to a fork in the road. And you will have to choose between the right thing and whatever it is that you hold dear to your heart. Like Abu Lahab did with his wealth, and Al-Walid with his status. Right? He was too powerful, he was too strong. Imagine this. This man had the ability to change the fate of Muslims forever. You understand? That's attractive. That's an amount of power that's quite it's intoxicating. That I in my hand hold the ability to have all these people follow you or say no and have you spend the next 13 years persecuted, losing your loved ones. You're going to immigrate from this country. You're going to fight battle after battle, lose all of your loved ones, almost die yourself. But what happened at the end is he still prevailed. Haqq still prevailed, with and without Al-Walid. But at that moment he carried, right? Oh my God. For the human being, this is a big deal. If I give you that key, and I put you in charge, and you actually can make that decision, I'm telling you, when you listen to this story, you're like, oh, it's easy. I'm telling you it isn't. And if you don't believe me, then you'll wait until you see. Or listen to what the Quran is saying so that you prepare yourself. The Quran, in the verses, it tells us, it's amazing, these verses. They draw a picture. They illustrate for you what happened, how Al-Walid behaved. Like that's literally what it's going to illustrate for you how it's all going to happen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kalla, no more for him. This arrogant, greedy human being who wants more. No more. Kalla, no more. Innahu kana li ayatina anida. Indeed, he showed a stubbornness towards what he knew was truth, with the evidence that we provide. So urhiquhu sa'ud. I'm going to tire him on his way. Sa'uda meaning till his last breath. I will torment him. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. I'm going to torment him to his last breath. Wow. He will continue to have to live with the fact that he knows what's correct, what's true, and he didn't do it. He's going to live with that for the rest of his life. And that will torment him on his way until the last breath that he takes. So the verses after that, we'll start with ayah number 18. They describe for us something. So let's listen to them. They're very intriguing. So we'll read up to ayah number 30 and then I'll explain inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنه فكر وقدر فقتل كيف قدر ثم قتل كيف قدر ثم نظر ثم عبس وبسر ثم أدبر واستكبر. So this is how the Quran describes. Innahu, indeed, he thought and he weighed things. Fakkara, contemplated, reflected. That tafkir. He dove into deep thought on something. Waqaddar, and he started to make estimations and weigh things out. He started to think about outcomes. He's thinking deeply about the matter that he is stuck with. And the outcomes of the decisions he's going to make. Qaddar, he starts to estimate what's going to happen later. We all do this. We all think and we run scenarios. And we think about, okay, here's this predicament I'm in. What can I do here? I can do 1, 2, or 3. These are the options that are possible. Then I start thinking, well, if I do number 1, what's going to happen? Well, if I do this, then she'll do that, or he'll do that, and then I'll do this, and then here's an outcome. I don't like that outcome. Don't like it. So you come back again. All right, what's number 2? And you do the same thing. You run the scenario to the end. You make adjustments on the way to see if you can get an outcome that you like. You get it. Number 3, keep on looking for a choice until you find an outcome that suits you, or an outcome that you're happy with. People who are smart, that's what they do. For him, that's what he did. إِنَّهُ فَكَّرْ. Indeed, he thought deeply about what it is that he was dealing with. وَقَدَّرْ. And he made those estimations. He ran those scenarios in his mind. Every scenario ended up with him losing his status. He couldn't run a scenario he didn't lose, where he didn't end up having to admit that his life up till this moment was theologically incorrect, that he should have never worshipped asnam, nor played into the hand of that type of lifestyle. No one wants to admit that. That's an admission of someone of status that they were wrong, and it's going to take away some of his credibility. None of the scenarios work where he becomes, he stays the godfather of Quraysh, the man who people come to when they're in need. All the scenarios, the Prophet ﷺ becomes the leader, and he becomes something that he doesn't know what it is. He can't define himself. He can't find an outcome that he can't run it. Every scenario he runs, he couldn't find this. What he was missing is that none of that matters. Is that all of these scenarios you're running don't matter, because this answer is simple. What is the right thing to do here? Like, what is the truth? What is correct? What is righteous? Well, who cares about all of the other things? If you don't have that in your mind, then you're going to fail in life at some point. And forgive me for using that heavy term. And I'm saying this to my younger brothers and sisters, not to my older ones. Forgive me. For the younger, you'll fail later, because if your personal interest beats doing the right thing, then it's just a matter of time before everything comes crashing down. Haqq has to be a no-brainer. What's the right thing to do here? This one, that's it. I do it. I don't even think about scenarios. I don't think about outcomes. I'll deal with whatever comes later, after I do the right thing, after I make the right choice. Then I'll see, okay, what's the landscape after I made the right choice? What's left for me? What options do I have after I make the right choice? Not before. Not before. He couldn't فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ. So what Allah say? So what did he say? فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. May he be punished for the way he estimated. See, not فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ فَكَّرَ. No, فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. Because the thought, engaging in deep thought, was healthy. He was thinking about what is true, what is correct, what is wrong, what is right. But then, qaddar, he started to run scenarios in his mind. Okay, what are the outcomes here? And all the outcomes didn't work out for him. So he started to think, well, what scenario does work? And now he's actually compromising the initial thought that he had that this is correct. And he's saying, well, if I say it's not correct, then 1, 2, 3 will happen, and I like those outcomes. So, فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. May he be punished. Qutil here is a dua against him. It's of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, may he be punished. May he be destroyed for the way he thought. ثُمَّ قُتِلَ. And then again, may he be destroyed for the way that he estimated, in the way that he weighed things. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it's more of a atab, it's more of a, this is equal in my understanding in the Quran to what he says in Surat Yasin, where Allah says, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. Oh, how sad it is, the matter of my servants. Ma ya'tihim min rasulin illa kanu bihi yastahzi'un. Every time I give them a prophet, they mock them and they mistreat them. Ya hasra. Hasra is where there's despair, there's upset. That why are you doing this to yourself? And that's what he's being. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. Why would you do this? Why would you think this way? Why would you care? ثُمَّ قُتِلَ. Because imagine, why twice? Once for himself, and once for the change that could have occurred for the ummah. one فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ for him, because he tanked himself. And then ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ because he tanked with him a whole story that could have been different. A story that could have had less bloodshed. Where you didn't lose Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, right? And Mus'ab ibn Umayr, and you didn't lose Yasir and his wife. And Ammar would have his parents with him, and right? Certain people where Khadija didn't starve for 3 years and then die out of malnutrition. This would have had. Why? Why did you do all this? Your choice at this moment, your stubbornness, your lack of ability to accept the truth harmed you and then harmed a nation of people after you. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. Then it shows you can almost watch him. ثُمَّ نَظَرَ. And then he looked, stared into the abyss for a moment. ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَسَرَ. Al-abas is when you frown. Basar is when you're scolding. So it's basar is in the eyes, and abasa is in the mouth. So this is abasa. It's a frown. Basar is when you squint your eyes. So ثم نظر ثم عبس وبسر. ثم أدبر واستكبر. Then he made a decision. He turned his back. He turned his back and he filled himself with arrogance. He let it break loose inside of himself. He let the arrogance that he carried on the inside break loose. I am the leader. I am the chief. I rebuilt the Kaaba. I did this. I did that. I have this. Who is he to come and challenge all of this? Who is he to break the status quo? Who is he to cause all of this fitna? Why didn't he come to me first? He went beyond that. The Quran talks about وَقَالُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ على رجل من القريتين عظيم أهم يقسمون رحمة ربك. And they said, well, why wasn't the Quran just revealed upon one of the great men of the two great cities? Why Muhammad sallallahu ala Muhammad? And who is greater than Muhammad alayhi salatu wasallam? But it's like, why not Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira or ibn Abd Yalayl في الطائف في ثقيف? Why not one of these two great individuals? So for him, he's thinking, well, why would Allah send him? Well, he has me. He has me. Why would he send him? Now you understand. ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدُ. You want prophecy, come on? I gave you wealth and I gave you children and I made everything easy and you also want prophecy? Yes, salam. Who made you the center of the universe? When were you the center of the world? ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ كَلَّا. No, you don't get more. You got your share. Now don't be arrogant and don't be stubborn and don't refuse that which you know. SubhanAllah, he admitted in his circle, إِنَّهُ لَمُثْمِرٌ أَعْلَاهُ مُغْدِقٌ أَسْفَلَهُ يَعْلُو وَلَا يُعْلَى عَلَيْهِ. There's other words, and if you read, there's he has a long speech that is beautiful in describing the Quran. He said more than that. But he admitted to himself that this is different, this is beautiful, and this is not poetry, and this is not wizardry, and this is not magic, and this is not any of this stuff. But what is it? He was this close to admitting the truth, but what happened? فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ. But he weighed it all out and he didn't like the outcomes. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. What an idiot. Why did he think that way? ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَسَرَ. And then he made a decision. ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ. And then he turned his back to the truth. وَاسْتَكْبَرَ. And he filled himself with the arrogance. We continue to hear what he said. فَقَالَ إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ يُؤْثَرُ. إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا قَوْلُ الْبَشَرِ سَأُصْلِيهِ سَقَرَ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سَقَرُ لَا تُبْقِي وَلَا تَذَرُ لواحة للبشر عليها 19. فقال, and then he said, he gathered his people, and he told them, إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ يُؤْثَرُ. All this is imported wizardry. All it is, so don't panic, it's not يُؤْثَرُ. Uthir, meaning something that was taken from someone else. That's why when you have a quote from someone, we call it an athar, right? And an athar is what's an athar? A footprint or whatever is left, a result or a legacy, something left behind. Something left behind is called an athar. A trace, thank you, jazakallah khair. And after khalas, 9 o'clock and I lose my vocabulary. So something that's athar is a trace. So yu'thar, something that is taken from someone else. It was left behind by someone and it was taken. So this is sihr. This is wizardry, some form of magic. Meaning words that were put together in a way that affect the brain that he didn't come up with. He imported from somewhere else. Meaning he found it somewhere. He found this left somewhere. And it's an old piece of magic made by someone that he has now taken and he's using it upon all of us. In that he came up with something. Like, no, he's not a magician. Correct, he's not a magician. He's not a wizard. We're not going to say that because that's not what he is. He just stole it from someone who was. And it was never used at the time and he just picked it up. So it's a piece so it's not original, he didn't come up with it. He imported it from someone else. It's a very well put together. It worked. It worked for 13 years, it worked. This argument is the argument that worked. Nothing else worked. The ignorant people who were mushrikeen, who would use other ways to describe him, ﷺ, lost the argument by a child. Oh, he's a poet. No, he ain't. He's a magician. He's not that either. Because these don't work. These arguments don't work. He's Majnoon. No, he's not. We know him. He's not sick and he's not insane. He's a liar. No, we know he's not a liar either. All of these things where you couldn't make these claims because there was so much evidence against it. So he came up with a loophole. It's like, no, he's not a magician or a wizard or a liar even. But what he has in is sacred or ancient wizardry. Words that were put together by people before him that were designed to change the mind and fool people. He found it. He found it. He didn't come up with it. No one's talking to him. It's not original. So yes, he's not a magician. He just found old magic and he's using it. In هذا إلا قول البشر. The words are just the words of man. Some man who knew how to do this put these together for him, and he took it and now he's using it on us. It worked. As an argument, it worked. Because now you couldn't say because we're not saying, he wasn't saying that, oh, he's a magician or he's a wizard or he's a poet. No. He's just, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, forgive me. He said basically, forgive me, he's a fraud. That's what he said here. Just so I understand what claim he was making. He was making a claim that he's a fraud. He took it. And what he took was not the truth. It was just powerful words put together by a magician who came before him. People of ancient, like whenever you say something ancient, khalas, you put a mystic halo around it, it's hard to define it anymore. It doesn't matter. He found something, he walked into a cave and he found some ancient mystic piece of literature, and he took it and he acted like he came up with it and he's using us on us and it's working with people. Khalas. They were like, thank you. Habibna ya wali, thank you. No one, now we can, and they disseminated this narrative. And this narrative held back Islam within Arabia for a long time. For a long time. It would be 18 years before people gave this a chance again. Right? It was until Hudaybiyah. And some people, it was 20 years from that moment before those who were poisoned by this narrative actually gave it a chance again later on. He had to literally come into Mecca with an army to get people just to listen to what's being said. They would do this, like they disseminated this narrative to the point where when people coming to Hajj, they would have people standing on the outskirts of Mecca telling people that we have this man. They would use a word that's much more disrespectful that I'm not going to use to describe him, alayhi salatu, and he has this narrative, this poetry, this wizardry that he stole, that he's using on people. It'll fool you, so be careful. Right? And the Quran talks about this. وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُمْ يَقُولُونَ إِنَّمَا يُعَلِّمُهُ بَشَرٌ لِسَانُ الَّذِي يُلْحِدُونَ إِلَيْهِ أَعْجَمِيٌّ وَهَذَا لِسَانٌ عَرَبِيٌّ مُبِينٌ. We know that they're saying that a person taught him this stuff. Well, they said their narrative wasn't perfect, or at least some people built on it and it wasn't proper, that the person who taught it for them wasn't Arabi. Because to say that was an Arab person would be difficult. Because who is it? Who was the Arab person? We know all of us, like the Arabs know each other and they know their lineages and they know. Everyone has a passport. Everyone knows where they're coming from. So you can't say, oh, Arab guy, hold on. Whom? Who did it? Point out where did he come from? So he couldn't say it was an Arab person. He said, yu'thar. It was taken from some mystic background, but not Arabi probably, somewhere in the Romans. So the Quran says, well, if it's a Roman guy, why is it so fasih? Why are the words more powerful in better Arabic dialect than everything else that you can say? It makes no sense. لِسَانُ الَّذِي يُلْحِدُونَ إِلَيْهِ أَعْجَمِي. The tongue that they're accusing that made this up is A'jami. It's not وَهَذَا لِسَانٌ عَرَبِيٌّ مُبِينٌ. This is a very clear Arabic tongue. What are you doing? This argument is dumb. But everything has a flaw, but it was left. The story, one of the stories that are interesting is Tufayl ibn Amr al-Dawsi, when he came for Hajj. And Tufayl is a Sayyid fi qawmihi. He's one of the leaders of his tribe, and he was a very adib, rajulun adibun alim. He's someone who was very knowledgeable, and he was a scholar of literature. He was a poet himself. And being a poet back then meant a lot. It meant that you were highly educated and very intelligent. And to actually put together Arabic poetry requires a high level of intelligence and abilities. So he's coming into Mecca to do Hajj, and they're telling him about this man, that is Yashar al-Nas. He's casting spells on people with this magic that he found. Right? So don't listen to it. قال فخوفوني حتى خفت. And they made me scared until I got scared. فأخذت الكرفس فوضعته في أذني. And I took cotton and I shoved it in my ears. خشية مني أن أسمع. Out of fear that somehow he says, I hear him and he casts the spell on me. وذهبت أطوف بالبيت. And then I go and I start performing tawaf. Happened to be the Prophet ﷺ is standing there in prayer. يصلي. So Tufayl is going around. He asks, who is that? Because he's doing something very specific ﷺ, something different than everyone else. قالوا هذا Muhammad, the guy that you talk about. So يقول I stick it in properly so I don't, because that's what and I'm walking around the Kaaba. ثم قلت لنفسي يا طفيل يا أحمق ما هذا الذي تفعله. I said to myself, oh Tufayl, you idiot, what are you doing? أتخشى من كلام, you're scared of words. رجل مثلك أديب يعرف الشعر سمعه ونظمه يخشى من كلام. You're a person who knows poetry. You've learned poetry. You say poetry. You're scared of words. What are you doing? It's a propaganda, right? Propaganda. Narratives can be powerful. Narratives can be powerful. It can make you not even consider things. That, like a narrative can go so strong that you don't even allow yourself to consider that maybe that side has a point. It's very, very dangerous. Right? It's very dangerous. It's what happens in the world, which is why this trait will fail everything Surat Al-Mudathir talked about. If you're someone who is not willing to consider the truth, listen to it, and then if you find it, you're not going to unconditionally accept it, then you're going to continue to lie to yourself and keep on going with something that you know is not right and is not working, is incorrect, then what value do you really carry? What ethics do you carry? And how is anything going to work for you? You have to, haqq has to be heavier than anything else in this world for you, for all of us. In order for Islam to work in general, this is the trait, this is what the surah is teaching, that this has to be there. So Tufail, he takes out the cotton from his ears, and he listens to the Prophet ﷺ recite the Quran. فقال والله ما هذا بشعر ولا هذا بسحر ولا هذه بكهانة. This is not poetry, this is not magic, nor is this kahana. He comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and the story goes on that he talks to him and he accepts Islam and he goes back to his people, and 10 years later he brings all of Dos with him. He brings all of the tribe of Dos with him. Amongst them is Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu as a part of that. Some could argue that he took out the cotton and got the spell was cast upon him as he was feared. Or you could say that he granted himself the space to think and make judgment himself and not succumb to superstition. So he made a strong narrative. In هذا إلا سحر يؤثر إن هذا إلا قول البشر. So he took away its authenticity, and he took away its originality, and he made the person who was teaching it a fraud, and he took away its sanctity. It's not sacred, it's not the word of God, it's not original, and the person who's saying it's a fraud, and it has a mystic effect that you can't avoid, so you shouldn't listen to it. Khalas. You checked all the boxes for the correct response. And this response put Islam to sleep within Mecca for a long time. The numbers that accepted Islam were very low. If you look at the graph of people accepting Islam historically with the Prophet ﷺ, it grumbles along, and only skyrockets in Hudaybiyah, like in the 18 years later, when it starts going up. Before that, it's just a grumble. And sometimes it dips even. Sometimes the graph even dips. Some numbers, the people are killed and there's no new Muslims. And during the 3 years of the boycott of Bani Hashim, the numbers dipped. No new Muslims, and people were passing away and being starved to death. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, سَأُصْلِيهِ سَقَرْ. I'm going to take him in an undignified way to Saqar, to the hellfire. The Saqar is severe damage in Arabic. That's the origin of the word. Yeah, we're done, inshallah, in 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay. سَأُصْلِيهِ سَقَرْ. I'm going to have him taken in an undignified way into Saqar, into the part of hell fire that is severely dead. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سَقَرْ. And what do you know about Saqar? You don't know anything about Saqar. لَا تُبْقِي وَلَا تَذَرْ. It does not allow someone to live, nor does it allow someone to die. لَا تُبْقِي. It doesn't let him live. Baqa is life, is ongoing. وَلَا تَذَرْ. Nor does it even let him die. So the person can't live and can't die. لَوَّاحَةٌ لِلْبَشَرِ. Scorching the skin. الْبَشَرِ, the skin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala salama. أعاذنا الله وإياكم. May Allah protect us all, inshallah. And then he says, عليها 19. Upon it is 19. I'm going to leave that until next week. Because in order for me to explain it, I have to go through the ayah after it. And also because that's where the revelation of Surat Al-Mudathir stopped. At the beginning, right? So not all of Surat Al-Mudathir was revealed all at once. Remember I told you Muzammil was the first page. And then the second page came later on in Medina 10, 15 years later. The Mudathir, up to here, 30 verses, all at once, and then stop. Right? Or some scholars say that it was the first seven, and then the next 22 within a few months later, and then there was a little bit of a delay. There was a delay, a couple of months delay afterwards. And you can look at the ayah, it's long. It's a long ayah. And the reason it's long is it's hinting to you that this came in a delayed manner. It didn't come right away afterwards. This was left. Why? Because once he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in his verses, after Al-Walid al-Mughira did this, after Al-Walid made this narrative and spread it amongst Quraysh, these verses were revealed. So Quraysh heard them. Quraysh was more in tune with the Quran being revealed than most Muslims are today. Like Abu Jahl knows more than Quran. Abu Jahl knows more Quran than some Muslims today. Wallahi al-azim, I'm not saying this as a disrespectful word. Abu Jahl, until the day he died, he was in tune with everything the Prophet ﷺ was revealing. He listened to it, he knew it. Why? Because it was important to him, because it was a cause that he lived against, so he knew everything. Muslims today know less Quran than he did. Just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tub alayna. But this is the truth. He listened. So when these verses were revealed, Quraysh were talking. Al-Walid, he felt his back up against the wall. He was Actually, after these verses, he never recovered fully. Like he never fully recovered his status because the Quran came and described him in a way that he recognized and the people around him recognized. It almost like it exposed him. He was saying the Prophet is a fraud. The Quran came and exposed him as a fraud. And he was so self-conscious about these verses that talked about him that he went into solitude for a while. Like he didn't make public appearances as much anymore. That's why Abu Sufyan and Abu Jahl became true leaders in Mecca, because he literally had to go back into his cave because of these verses and how they exposed him as a person. He described him. فكر فقتل ثم قتل ثم نظر ثم عبس. It's as if he's listening to himself. He's listening to the Quran speak of himself, and this is the ijaz of the Quran. He could have ended all of Islam, by the way, by accepting Islam right after this. This whole story could have ended. We can go home. All he had to do is Walid ibn Mughira, he listened to these verses and say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, done. The whole thing is gone. The Quran is saying, Uslihi saqar, and he's giving his shahada, right? But he didn't. Because ilmullah subhanahu wa ta'ala sabiq, Allah knows that this man will not accept. Not because Allah doesn't want him to accept, or that he's being forced not to accept, because he has made his decision that he's not going to accept. And he became self-conscious of what the Quran, he knew was God speaking of him, because no one saw him. But he knew what he did. And he knew where he was and how he behaved. And the Prophet ﷺ was not there. Yet he speaks ﷺ as if he was sitting beside him watching him do it. So it became, and he got scared and he retreated back a little bit. So Uslihi saqar. So now the people of Quraysh want to defend their leader. So they start mocking. What can they mock? The verses are too heavy. لا تبقي ولا تذر لواحة للبشر. But then عليها 19. Right? A weak point, at least in their minds. There's a weak point. 19? 19 what? And why 19? What a silly number. Make them 20. It's a nice full whole number. 19? Why is 19 even the... And then some of them started to joke. Oh, 19, that's nothing. I'll take care of 16 of them. You guys just take care of the next 3. One of the Jahili, you know these types of people. Like, don't worry about it. 19 malaika, no problem. This is what I trained for. I'll take care of 16 of them. You guys take care of 3, and then we'll get rid of them all, and khalas, we don't have to go to Jahannam anymore. And everyone's laughing and finding it funny. And they're mocking. They're mocking the Muslims, and what is this, 19? Why, because it rhymes? Why is it 19? And the Quran stopped coming. And Jibreel didn't come anymore. Like the Prophet ﷺ, his job is to reveal and explain, and then Jibreel decides at some point to take a break, go on vacation for a few months, and everyone's making fun of 19, and he has no response because he doesn't know anything. Like the ayah doesn't say 19 what and why. The ayah doesn't explain any of it. The whole point is to talk about the second trait. In order for this to work, in order for the first 7 verses of Surat Al-Mudathir to be effective, there's a few traits you can't have. Number 1, you cannot refuse the truth when you are seeing it. When you see the truth, you have to follow it. You have to drop whatever you're carrying. You have to retreat or retract any mistakes that you've made, and you adhere to what is correct. No matter how long you've been mistaken for, no matter how much you defended the mistake, you have to accept the truth when it's made clear to you. And if you don't do that, then nothing that's been taught to you will work. Like you can take but it won't matter if you're not that person. So the first trait that will ruin things for you is if you don't unconditionally accept haqq. Number 1. Number 2 is what 19 was going to teach. But it was going to be a practical example. So here, Allah's going to leave the word. Leave the Prophet ﷺ hanging with no explanation, with no way. Like the Sahaba can respond, but they don't dare respond. They're not like us. They won't start explaining things they don't understand. They don't know what 19 is, so they're quiet. And everyone's mocking it and making fun of it. And they could make up an example. Well, he meant this or he meant that, and 19, like we do today. And the miracle, the number 19, and we start doing all these funny calculations and bringing in mathematicians and coming up with false papers and talking about how 19 is how the universe is understood. And hell anni, this false. But they didn't, because they don't know. They have no idea. So they were taught by their master, alayhi salatu wasalam, you don't know, you hold your tongue. He didn't know, he held his tongue. It was painful. It was a painful few months of holding their tongues as they mocked this ayah. I almost wonder, like, why is it even there? So, أُصْلِهِ سَقَرْ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سَقَرْ لَا تُبْقِي وَلَا تَذَرْ لَوَّاحَةٌ لِلْبَشَرِ Allahu Akbar. This is extremely scary. It's very powerful, and it's like a pounding of a drum. Like these verses are like you're listening to a drum being pounded. And then عليها 19. Why? Why this? And no explanation after it? No clarification of what you mean? Maybe drop it? Drop it, bring it bound later? No. It's left there for a reason. Let them speak. So I'm going to explain to you next week what it means. But if you want to think about it, the equivalent of it in other surah is سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم ويقولون خمسة سادسهم كلبهم رجما بالغيب ويقولون سبعة وثامنهم كلبهم قل ربي أعلم بعدتهم ما يعلمهم إلا قليل. When they start talking about there's 3 Ahl Kahf and the 4th was a dog. Well, there's 5. No, there's 5. No, I know there are 7. They start فلا تماري فيهم إلا مراء ظاهرا ولا تستفتي فيهم منهم أحدا. Listen to that verse, understand what it means, and then reflect upon this one and read the long one, and then we'll talk about it inshallah ta'ala next week. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير. We will be after Isha now.